for the geometry test. Again, they've asked us multiple times. If you take sine of the top angle, we know sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Well, that's going to be the same thing as cosine of the bottom. Think about it. When you switch sine and cosine, you switch from opposite to adjacent. But when you switch angles, it does the exact same thing, right? If we do sine of Q is going to be this guy and that guy. But then if you do cosine of R, it's going to be this guy and that guy. What was opposite for Q is adjacent for R. So this is something you have seen a bunch. Sine of Q is equal to cosine of R. These triangles, you just got to draw them. We can draw the picture. You have grid paper. So Q, R, P, and you plot the points, and you want to know whether it's an isosceles right triangle. Okay, number one, isosceles, you got to make sure this side and this side are the same, and you got to see if this is a right angle. So you can see that going from Q to R, it's over 3 up 3, which is a slope of 1 and a distance of 3 radical 2. That's the pattern we know, right? 3, 3, 3 radical 2 for a 45, 45, 90 triangle, which is an isosceles right triangle, right? This is the definition. And then if you go from Q to P, it's going to be the same thing, except it's down 3 over 3. So they have opposite reciprocal slopes, and they're both over 3 up 3, over 3 down 3, so that they definitely have the same length, the length being 3 radical 2. So yes, they are for sure isosceles and a right triangle. All right, this one is going the backwards way. They typically say, find the density, and you take the number of people and divide by area, or you take the mass and divide by volume. But this one's a little tricky. So they actually give you the area and the density, but we know that density times area is equal to the number of people. So you can figure out the number of people is 1899, and then they say, what's the increase? Well, that's the difference between what it was and what it is, which is 101. Again, in this case, they give you the number of square miles, and they give you how many people per square mile. So of course you would multiply them together to find the number of people. Just got to read carefully, right? This is saying what's the probability of who has a plan with provider B has unlimited storage. Because again, you're only looking then at the plan, the provider B people, and you want to know who has unlimited storage. So 14 of those 20. Again, this is the given piece. You're not looking at everybody and saying who has unlimited storage. You're saying what's the probability that a randomly selected person who has a plan with provider B has unlimited storage. It's kind of a silly thing, right? When you see this is the shared side by both triangles. That's the idea of reflexive, right? AC would equal CA. It's congruent to itself. Each triangle has a side, side, side. So we have to be able to know all the different ways. So side, 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 angle, side, angle, side, angle, side, angle, angle, side, and HL, all are ways to prove triangle congruence. But in this case, it's side, 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 because you look at the triangles, you know, single, single, double, double, and then the shared side. And again, reflexive is that. Okay, once they tell you the triangles are similar on 27, then you know the sides are proportional. The sides are proportional. You just have to make sure you match up the letters correctly. The order matters. So AB and JK match up. So AB is 3.5, and then JK is 10.5. So 10.5 to 3.5, and then you got to match up X, which I made this silly question mark, and you got to match it to which one? Well, L and J match up with A and C, so the 2.5. So 10.5 to 3.5 is X over 2.5. Cross multiply, put it in decimals, don't really care, but you get X, and it's 7.5. You can also notice that this ratio is double and this ratio is double, so same kind of thing. Match the letters. Again, you know that WX is with QR. It tells you that WX is 5 and QR is 2, so the scale factor must be 2.5, meaning the new figure has all the lengths 2.5 times the old lengths. So if you want to take the length of WZ, if you want to find WZ is going to match up with QT. So I took 3 and multiplied by 2.5 to get 7.5, and the angles won't change. So if the angle here is 45, then that angle is 45. Again, match it up. Y corresponds to S. Look at the letters. Y is the third letter, S is the third letter. So if this is 45, this is 45. Angles won't change in similar figures. I don't like this wording, but it's not that hard, right? You're gonna take this circle and you're gonna show that it's similar to other circles. Well, all circles are similar to each other. They're all just bigger or smaller circles. So to show that it's similar, you just have to move it and translate it. So if you translate the center onto point P, so you're gonna take the M circle and move it to circle P, and then you're gonna multiply by PQ over MN. Basically, you're gonna multiply it by the scale factor, and so you're going to make it the exact same size of the new circle. So it's the new circle over the old circle, and it's going to make it bigger, and then the circles will be identical. This one is crazy long for a multiple choice question. You need to find the perimeter of this thing. It's like 5 steps. Step 1 is to find x. So think of this little guy as a right triangle, and we're going to use cosine. Cosine of 35 is x over 12, and this is one-step algebra, and we find this distance x here is 9.83. Then we need to find the height of this triangle. We do sine of 35 is h over 12 and get 6.88. So now I know that this right here, h, is 6.88. Then I look at this crazy other right triangle over here, and I do Pythagorean theorem. I take h and I add it to 9, and now I know the hypotenuse of the right triangle, and I can do Pythagorean theorem to find 13.72. Or sorry, I add them together to get 15.88, and then I took this triangle and did Pythagorean theorem to find 13.72. So now you know that the crazy figure is 9 by 9.83 by 12 by 13.72 by 8, and you add all those up to find the perimeter of that thing, and you get 53. So you needed a cosine, a sine. Once you found sine, then you actually needed the Pythagorean theorem on the right triangle over here to find the slanted distance, and then you add them all up. So if you get that one wrong, it's okay. That's a pretty intense question. It's like the second time we've seen this one, right? We know that the sector area is just a fraction of the total area. And so you just want these areas to be the same. So just set them equal to each other. Desmos can solve it, or you can use algebra. But 9 over 360 times pi r squared equals some angle over 360 times pi 6 squared. And if you don't want to use theta on Desmos, just put an x. And then x equals 40. Okay? Remember, a dilation creates a similar figure. Translations, reflections, and rotations create congruent figures. That's why they're called rigid transformations. But a dilation creates a similar shape. Definition of being independent is that P and Q, or the probability of Q and R, is the same thing as the probability of Q times the probability of R. So I'm going to take this right here, that top, and I'm going to get rid of it. And instead of Q and R, I'm going to say it's just P times R. But then you have P of Q times P of R all over P of R equals 4/5, which really just means that P of Q has to equal 4/5. Okay. Same thing. You want to see if they're independent of each other. Probability of A and B is the probability of A times the probability of B. And if you look at these probabilities, this is 20/28. This is 7/28. 20/28 times 7/28 is in fact 5/28. So I showed, and you can check this on Desmos, just type in this, and see it equals 5/28. So you know that the probability of A and B is equal to the probability of A times the probability of B, which means the events are independent, which means it doesn't matter whether the temperature is high or low, they're equally as likely to happen. Okay? Which means the events are independent of each other. This one's a little tricky because like, hey, the inside cylinder must hold this much liquid and the diameter must be this, but it gives you a range. Just pick one. It won't matter. So if you didn't pick the same one I picked, you're not going to get the same answer. But I just picked the volume to be 480, and I picked the diameter to be 10, which meant that the radius was 5. And I just picked those. And then I wrote the formula. The volume of the cylinder is pi r squared h. So I just plugged in 480 for the volume, 5 for the radius, and I solved this. You feel free to use Desmos, or you can do algebra, and you can get 6.1. So if they give you some, hey, we know it's in between this and in between this, well, just pick one. You could have picked anything, and I just picked those two. Careful that they gave you the diameter and you have to find the radius. This one, they want the volume of a cylinder to equal the volume of a cone. So remember, the volume of a cylinder is pi r squared h. The volume of a cone is 1/3 pi r squared h. So if you know the volume of the cylinder, this 1/3 is the same thing as just dividing by 3. So the cone is smaller. So just divide by 3, divide the volume of the cylinder by 3 to get the volume of the cone. Volume of pyramid we know is 1/3 BH, where B is the area of the base. So the area of that guy is 8 times 8. So it's just 1/3 times 8 squared times 9. Just punch it on your calculator or Desmos and get it. We know that alternate interiors are congruent, again, assuming the lines are parallel. And so we know that to be true. We know that if we add up two angles that form a line, they're equal to 180. So that would go there on 4. And then, I mean, the whole goal is to prove this. So that last line has to be the goal, right? That is what you want to prove. That has to be right there. And again, you just kind of make some substitutions. The way they write proofs are kind of these little empty boxes. So you just have to be careful and kind of think it through. How did they get this statement? What's the answer? How did they get this? That. And kind of just go through. This formula will be given on the air test, but we know it. So and equals 1 plus the other minus or, which is the same thing as saying or equals 1 plus the other minus and. You do it however you want, but I just filled in the blanks and then solve for this missing variable, and you get 0.4. Match up the letters, right? KL matches up with NO. And so the scale factor is 3/5. So this is a reduction. And so I just took 10 times 3/5 and got 6. And the angles are the same. Remember, the angles are going to be the same. And angle O matches up with angle L. So if L is 22, then O is 22. Right? Similar figures have the same angles. This one, we're going to take this and we're going to go rotate it around. There's going to be a gap here, right? And so we get this inner kind of cylinder gap. But if we rotate a line around another line, we are going to form a cylinder. It's just that there's an inner cylinder because there's this gap created. And so it's this guy. And one line of symmetry, or it says at least one line of symmetry. So you can just kind of draw a line and say, oh, there's that one. There's that one, there's that one, there's that one, and these don't have one. So those 4 have at least one line of symmetry. Okay, hopefully this kind of video helps. But again, these are all the ones that were released. There were clearly other questions that are maybe easier, maybe harder, but certainly circles, probability, trig, all those have been on there. Obviously, in the a big one is congruent things versus similar things. But hopefully this helped.